So our next speaker is Jessica Vandenberghe, who will be presenting a cradle-to-grave perspective on the oil sands. Jessica Vandenberghe, pronouns she, her, is the Assistant Dean of Engineering, Community and Culture and Industrial Professor, Indigenous Engineering. She is alumni from the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Alberta with a BSc in Chemical Engineering, Computer Process Control Co-op, and a Master's in Chemical and Mining Engineering. She has worked in the oil sands, regulatory, infrastructure, and consulting industries. She loves to downhill ski and enjoys camping with her 2 children. So please go ahead, Jessica. We're looking forward to your presentation.
All right. Thank you, folks, for the invitation. I'm always happy to come and chat around energy. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about energy life cycle. So my background was working in the oil sands industry for many years, but I want to start off just talking a little bit first about some of the medicine wheel teachings that I've had, because we are working here at the University of Alberta on truth and reconciliation, learning how to integrate Indigenous content, learning how to walk the calls to action for truth and reconciliation. And so when it comes to cycles, the medicine wheel teaches us quite a few things. So I just want to read a little bit of a passage from Black Elk Speaks. And so this is teachings from one of the elders down in the south of us here. And so what he says in chapter 17 of his book here, it says, "You have noticed that everything an Indian does is in a circle. And that is because of the power of the world always works in circles and everything tries to be round." And so it goes on to say the life of a man is a circle from childhood to childhood. And so it is with everything where power moves. And I just really want to talk about that last sentence in there. So it's the same with everything where power moves. So when we talk about energy cycles, we're really talking about spirit. We're talking about this energy that moves from one state to another. And we really need to think about that cycle and how we can be ethical, how we can be thoughtful around reclamation, how we can think about the impact of shifting and changing that energy from different states or into different forms in order to harness it for the use that we're doing, in order to really think of that whole cycle together. So again, I'm going to chat a little bit about the oil sands. So the oil sands, there's a lot of deposits around the world. Here in Alberta, we have a very large one up in the Athabasca region, so in the north. There are a couple of different methods that are used to extract and refine and process this. I'm going to talk about the open pit mining that is used up there. So the oil is trapped within the sand. We know that historically, this was often used by Indigenous people for patching canoes and creating a different a type of glue, type of different uses for within their community. But for the mining and extraction industries, we were looking to harness energy that is within the bitumen, within the oil sands. And so this whole life cycle starts from being able to dig up the oil sands. In Fort McMurray, this is a picture of the large scale operation that happens there. It moved from a bucket wheel type conveyor convention now to trucks and shovels. And so that extraction of the energy source, the material that the energy is in, whatever its natural occurring state is. From there, it is moved and it's processed. It goes through large amounts of mechanisms in order to break up the large lumps of the sand. It goes to an area where they do hot water extraction. They turn it into a slurry using high temperature waters in order to hydrotransport it to large separation vessels. And so it's within the large separation vessels where the oil floats, the heavier sand sinks. But a large portion is trapped in this middling stream where there are tiny droplets that don't quite know whether they want to float to the top or whether they want to sink to the bottom. Same with sand is often all put together with the oil sand droplets. And then we have a mixture of water in between there. And so a lot of the process then is used to process that middling stream in order to capture more of that bitumen that comes out of that. And so in this case, we know that the energy is within the bitumen. It's that oil product that will be later refined and upgraded into the products that we use every day. And so they're really trying to capture everything that we can from this whole system, but also being thoughtful about what we're adding to the process in order to extract that bitumen, and then how do we handle those types of products. So for that middling stream, there's a lot of research into the areas of how can you extract that? Can you do that through chemical froth treatment? Is it through more mechanical means? Is it through flotation columns? Is it through different mechanisms of aeration, perhaps? Different types of way of coalescing the droplets together in order to change the chemistry, in order to extract that extra bitumen that's in there. And so from there, once all the extraction is done of the bitumen product, it goes off to the refinery. And it's in the refinery where we manipulate the properties in order to find the streams that we want. And so manipulating typically the temperature, really high temperatures, cracking those hydrocarbon chains, and in order to pull off the streams that are desirable in order to process into different products later on. And so the energy cycle, when it comes to a resource like the oil sands, goes quite a long way. So from that mining, from the extraction into the upgraders, and then from the upgraders, it's still refined even further into a variety of products that we use every day. So things like the gas for our vehicles, or perhaps it's refined to a state that's suitable for jet fuel, or it goes off to petrochemical plants in order to be converted to something like plastics or things like that. But our challenge when working with an energy life cycle, again, is not just to reach the goal of extracting that energy. It's also being thoughtful about all the byproducts that are being produced as part of this energy cycle. So what do we do with the land that was shifted? What do we do with the impact to the surrounding communities? Because we're using a large amount of water. We have a large area needed for tailings ponds. How do we move it back to restore the ecosystems and reclaim the lands, replanting natural and native plants that will take to the area? How do we handle all of that? And so the challenge with taking a natural resource through its whole energy cycle is very much not just limited to the singular pieces within the process. It's for that larger system. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, some of these systems that energy is involved in. And how do we, as professional engineers, as researchers, how do we make sure that we're making ethical decisions, that we're thoughtful in the impact that we have, not just on the other pieces within the process, but also on the environment, on the ecosystems, on the surrounding communities that are impacted downstream or upstream of these larger scale operations. That is really one of the largest challenges when it comes to being part of an energy type of resource extraction industry, is how do we handle and mitigate all those risks associated with the impact of changing and manipulating our oil sands, our energy source from state to state, and how do we take care of the pieces that come away from that we need to either restore back into the process or recycle, or somehow reclaim or somehow restore back to the natural environment. And so that is all really I wanted to share on the overview of energy life cycle from the oil sands point of view. And that's just to give you a thought, give you a start to thinking about, well, how do we do this at a very high level systems level, from a natural resource all the way through to when we use it in day-to-day use. And so I'll leave it there and I'll hand it back to you, Amina. Thanks.